Recently, I talked about one television series that I loved from my childhood that no one seems to remember, or hardly anyone seems to remember. War of the Worlds, the TV series. And another one, which I'm about to talk about, is also one that no one seems to remember, is Werewolf, the series, or just Werewolf. Werewolf was a series that aired on Fox. It came during its original lineup back in '87, along with shows like 21 Jump Street and Married with Children and other shows. Um, I remember seeing the commercial for Werewolf when I was a kid and just being like floored that there was a show about a werewolf. When I was a kid, I probably may say that werewolves were my favorite monsters. Zombies came really close, but werewolves were, I would say, were my favorite. That has switched over time. Zombies are definitely my favorite monsters. And werewolves are second, though I don't know if I can say a close second. But yeah, I was just obsessed with werewolves as a kid. Anything with a werewolf in it, I just had to look at it. I just had to watch. And so when I saw the commercial of Werewolf, I'm like, wow, like this can't be real. Like a show about a werewolf, but it was very, very real. I had saw the episode when it first premiered, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. The music, the atmosphere, the actors, the story, the direction, everything. I was hooked from the beginning. It was difficult watching every episode after that because at the time there was only one television in the house, I believe. And it would just be this rotation of, because it used to come on Saturdays. And so, one week I'd be watching Werewolf, the other week somebody would be watching like something else, and then maybe I would have to wait longer than that to watch Werewolf again. So I never got to never saw the entirety of Werewolf during its initial airing, which was only for one season. The show was very similar to the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby, or The Fugitive with David Johansen, in that every week you had the character Eric, who was the werewolf, the reluctant werewolf. So you would see him in a new town, in a new locale, trying to go ahead and find a cure for his condition. And he was being chased by a bounty hunter named Rogan. Eric was on the hunt for the werewolf that bit him. No, it wasn't a werewolf that bit him. His friend bit him, who was a werewolf, but he died. But like the werewolf, the lycanthropy that he has can be erased if he kills like the master werewolf, the werewolf that bit his friend, who was named Scorzini, who was played by Chuck Connors. Eric Cord was played memorably and strongly by John J. York, and Rogan was played also memorably and strongly played by Lance Legault. The show was produced by Frank Lupo, who also was one of the producers on the A-Team series. The striking score on the show was composed by Sylvester LeVay. The score of this is one of my favorite scores to any show ever made. It's just like I remember just hearing the first note and like just wow. Like I never heard a score that was heavily based with a guitar. Like I remember hearing that as a kid. Just like you just didn't hear scores like that, on television. You don't even hear scores like that now on television. That was heavily done with a guitar. The writing in the show was also very strong, very tight, very lean, to the point. It was just really, really effectively done. each episode would have, a different group of characters besides Eric and Rogan. Of course, they were the series regulars. Scorzini would appear every now and then, but besides that, Eric would encounter a new group of people, and they usually were people that were, pretty memorable, pretty engaging characters with, engaging situations. The show was very much like the Hulk, not just in the fact in terms of its story structure, but also was very much like the Incredible Hulk, because there would be the transformation scene. Like every week it would be like you would always look forward to the transformation, or every episode that would be like the highlight, seeing like our protagonist get inside that intense moment that would cause him to transform into this magnificent beast. In the case of Werewolf, obviously he turns into a werewolf instead of a giant, green hulking creature. And yeah, it was just cool. Like the special effects were just awesome. The special effects still hold up now with Eric becoming the werewolf. I believe the suit was created by special effects extraordinaire Rick Baker. Like the design is awesome. The special effects is awesome. Yeah, I never got tired of Eric becoming a werewolf. There are so many great things about the show Werewolf, but my most favorite thing in the series is the character Scorzini. Just like, he's just one of my favorite bad guys of all time. He's just so awful, like in terms of like just not as a character, but just like as a villain. Like he's just such a formidable force. Scorzini was just a very dominating, very intimidating villain, like in every way. I mean, his physical stature, Chuck Connors like stood at 6'5". That alone would just make him just someone you would not want to mess with. But just like, his body language, like the expressions he would make, the way how he would just utter dialogue in this commanding, but also very like unsettling, horrific, just captivating way. Like, I don't know, like he was just awesome. Like I wish I could just articulate this better, but just his simple presence without him having to say anything, like the energy he would exude, just like this was just somebody you did not want to cross, and he wasn't a stupid bad guy either. It was actually quite smart. The most badass thing about Scorzini was actually his transformation. I remember when I first saw his transformation, like I didn't know what to think, because it was just so out there, just so crazy, and just, I don't know, just like it just shocked my mind. Like it wasn't the normal standard werewolf transformation. Like usually you'll just see a man change, and like you see the bone stretching and the flesh stretching, and the features just change into a wolf. Like, no, that didn't happen with Scorzini. Scorzini literally ripped the flesh off his face, and then you would see like his werewolf form just like come out, just start protruding out, and it was just like, it was like some scary shit. Yeah, no, just fantastic, like fearsomely fantastic. His transformation, easily one of the best transformations I've ever seen in terms of, werewolf stuff. Werewolf also shares something else in common with War of the Worlds series, besides the fact that no one really remembers the two, at least not as much as I would like them to. But the fact how both shows had a major overhaul. Chuck Connors was no longer in the show. I believe he quit the series after a certain point. I can't remember exactly, but it was like past the halfway point of the first season. I don't know if it was due to, I thought it was creative differences, but maybe it was due to salary dispute. I don't know. But basically, Chuck Connors was no longer in the show, and they decided to get rid of the character Scorzini. So Scorzini's last episode, Eric had a final confrontation with him. Scorzini was played by a different actor. You could hardly see Scorzini in this final battle, and you also can tell that the actor who plays Scorzini, at least in the little bits where you could see him, that was not Chuck Chuck Connors. That was definitely an actor of smaller stature, and you could just tell it wasn't Chuck Connors. And just seeing the episode, I don't know, it just feels like a cheat. I mean, it just feels like a cheat overall. Just get rid of a great character like Scorsese, particularly so prematurely. The fight was just not that memorable, and yeah, it was just very anticlimactic, and I don't know, just not good. And so Scorsese was replaced by another villain. Like, basically, like, the whole thing was Scorsese being the master werewolf. No, he wasn't the master werewolf. There was another guy, Remy, played by Brian Thompson of, the Terminator, Friday Night 2, Mortal Kombat Annihilation fame. He's just done a lot of stuff with Brian Thompson, and he's a really cool actor. But yeah, he was like Eric's new, main antagonist, and Eric now had to like kill him to basically no longer be a werewolf, like sever the bloodline. I don't know, like, I just didn't think he was that good of a villain. No disrespect to Brian Thompson, he did the best he could with what he had, but the way how he was written, I just didn't care for Remy. And the show definitely went downhill in terms of its quality. The show was still watchable, the show was still entertaining, but it just, like, it wasn't what it once was. Like, such a huge drop in such a short amount of time. And Werewolf, never recovered, never got a second season. There's only a handful of memorable live-action werewolf stuff, but one title that should definitely be on the list of the best werewolf stories ever should be Werewolf. If you even casually like werewolves, Werewolf the series is an absolute must-see. It is easily one of the best werewolf stories, fiction creations ever created. Werewolf is so awesome that it'll leave you howling with excitement and howling for more.